What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Rusty Cage podcast. Ryan Jarrell, Greg Williams here as always, and we have a very special guest on the show. It's Adrian Yanez, who will be back in action at UFC Tampa December the 14th when he takes on Daniel Marcos. Adrian, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Happy I get to get another fight this year. So, really excited, especially against Daniel Marcos. Guy who's undefeated, is undefeated killer. So I can't wait to take that L from him. I'm
Yeah.
really excited.
Well, that was actually one of the first questions that I had for you. With this guy being undefeated, and I mean, a lot like you, when you first entered the UFC, a hot prospect, a lot of steam behind you. What does a win over an undefeated guy do for you right now at this stage of your career?
Man, it does wonders. I think it puts me right at the cusp of the top 15 or in the top 15, depending on how the fight goes. If I go to decision, and it's like it's a clear winner. Go to decision, it puts me like right at the back end, like 16, 17. But if I go out there and finish him, it definitely should put me in the top 15 because he's never been finished and he's coming off of some really good solid wins. So it should put me right back in the conversation and start getting the ranked opponents.
And you were in the top 15
Hmm.
previously. So are you kind of like salivating right now? Like, man, I go in, I beat this guy, I'm right back
Hmm.
where I should be.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's those are the fights that I wanted. I wanted fights to put me right back in. Even before I fought Vinicius, I was uh trying to get back in and fight another top prospect who's on his way to the top 15. I kind of wanted to be uh it would have been a good return match to fight Daniel Marcos because I felt like I was still in the top 15, like mentally. But again, you got to you got to get the tires back on the road before you start accelerating. So that's what I did with that win over Vinicius. Now to Daniel Marcos, man, it's the perfect matchup for me because, man, it's striker versus striker. I feel like I feel like I'm the cleaner and I hit a lot harder striker. So for me, this is a wonderful matchup against a guy who's undefeated. So I go out there, knock him out. That puts me right back in there, and I'm ready, man. I'm excited. I knew my past mistakes, and now I'm just like you know, closing up any holes that I felt like I had, or mentally and physically. So I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm ready to go out there and knock this guy out.
Yeah, you just said, stylistically,
Mhm.
striker versus striker. When you first heard the name, your initial thoughts, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this guy. I mean, did you feel that? I mean, you obviously you're at the top of the game, regardless. You're in the UFC. You're right there, knocking on the door of the top 15. But you're a prideful guy. You're a prize fighter. Did you feel like, okay, I'm better than this guy? This is a win. I'm gonna get it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I get the call and they're like Daniel Marcus is like hell yeah. Like why is like did you already sign the contract for me? What's going on over here? Like come on guys. Like hey, you already know I'm down for that cuz again, it's a striker versus striker. It's technical striker versus another technical striker. He has good qualities about him and everything and the big plus side on this was just like man, it's not like I'm getting ready for a tuna fight. This is the fight. This is the fight for me. This is that fight that's gonna put me in the top 15. Got to go out there and outstrike him, poke holes in his game, and then drain him out and knock him out.
When do you actually leave for Florida?
For Florida, I'll probably be leaving December 10th, if anything.
Okay, that's coming
Mhm.
coming right up around the corner, Greg.
Yeah, Adrian, good to see you, man. You trained with a legendary coach, Saul Solis, and he was a godfather of Texas MMA. Can you tell me, and condolences on his passing, passed a few years ago. Can you tell me what he gave you that you bring into the cage and bring to the fight game? Talk a little bit about him because I'm an ex-coach and coaching is my passion, and I feel like you were fortunate to train with him and get to experience him. What do you bring forward?
Man, it's more the mentality, the mentality towards everything. Everything is all a grind. So like, never staying out the gym, kind of staying consistent. Consistency is key in staying in the gym because that's where I've gotten better at and doing the little bit extra. It was never the guys like he'd always tell me, kind of coming up, is it's never the guys that just show up to the gym that get successful. It's the guys who do the extra credit, and extra credit is pretty much like after an hour of wrestling practice or kickboxing, you're doing extra shadow boxing, extra rounds of shadow boxing while everybody's leaving. You're still there, and man, that was me for the longest time. And he always kept it in the back of my head, and he always kept telling me, "Hey, just keep showing up, man. You might not have a fight, but like especially on the regional scene, like on the regional side coming up and on the regional scene, he just said like, hey, there's always going to be an opportunity that pops up, so you have to stay ready. There's going to be big opportunities. You just have to make sure you stay ready and be ready for the opportunity. He always told me he always told me to stay very focused on what you want, and also is like just always know you're fighting from behind. There's a lot of guys that have been doing it for a very long time, so anything extra will help you get to where you need to be. So it's the mentality on that part, because I pretty much like never stopped training after that. Like after any one of my fights, I had to last year with the Jonathan Martinez fight, I had to get surgery, so that kind of kept me out. So that kind of like drove me in a different mindset where I was like, okay, well, this isn't the time to stop working. It's time to start working. And I was working on something else, and that was more the mentality side. He never shied away from that side too. Whenever we would talk, he's like, sometimes you have to take the sit back and actually talk to yourself. And so that was it was very helpful for me, especially having somebody like that. It was not always just pure technique and technical on the technical side. Sometimes more on the mental side. And that's where he had a big influence over me as well too.
It sounds amazing, and like a great coach
Mhm.
coaches you mentally more than the physical is always can be easy, that can be a prescription, but the mental part is something that you really is so much a big part of the game. On the lighter side, like you're going to Florida, but what is your favorite fight town? I know you're from Houston, right?
Mhm.
But if you could fight anywhere in the world, where would you fight? What's your favorite place?
Man, I would love to fight here in Houston, just because of the sentimental value to me. Houston would be amazing. But man, I honestly, they'd probably just have to be like, someplace I've probably never been. If they do go to Spain, like that would be a pretty cool one to be like, hey, let's like I'll jump on that card. I'll fly over to Spain. I think that'd be pretty dope. Like flying overseas. I've only fought like in the UFC. I only fought in Austin, Texas, Nevada, and then Miami. So getting another city in Tampa, that's pretty dope. But I kind of want to start going international a little bit. If they go to Spain, I would 100% want to go to Spain. If not, I wouldn't mind going over to Singapore, and fighting over there and all that stuff. So that'd be pretty dope. But yeah, anywhere, honestly.
Right,
Help
right.
me help you like
The more
have
exotic, the better.
yeah, man. Have the UC pay for my flight and everything. Oh yeah, 100%. Tell them, hey, I don't want to fly out Sunday. I want to fly out Tuesday. Have that and
Right.
have an extra couple of days and be able to see like Brazil, all these places, man. So yeah, that's the cool part.
UFC's going to
Oh,
Australia in February.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know. I think the biggest reason why I wouldn't want to fight would probably be the taxes, but I 100% would try to be a guest fighter.
That'd be dope to go over to Australia. And geez, there's so many great fighters, elite fighters from that region now too. I'm sure it would just be an amazing
Mhm.
card to be on.
Oh yeah, it'd be absolutely amazing, man. They got again a bunch of great fighters and all that stuff. So, yeah, and also too, I would like to go see how it looks over there training wise. I would want to go over there and like kind of get the different looks, different feel. I think that'd be amazing because I you kind of get the feel from like being around like once you're in a certain area in a certain area you kind of get the like it feels like regional type of training. Some people have different methodologies, and I feel like a lot of times like if you go to Las Vegas, it's a different type of mentality with the training. You go to New York, different type of mentality of training and all that stuff. It's always slight differences, and I like it a lot, especially like if you go up to New York, wrestlers are a dime a dozen. You just you just walk out the corner like, oh, that guy's has cauliflowers. That guy's a really good wrestler. So, and then just again, it's just differences of like where you go train at. So, I would like to see the how the training community is over there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty darn good. How cool is it to see your boy Cam, not just in the UFC now,
Mhm.
but get that win in the UFC?
Man, it honestly it was kind of a surreal experience just because of the fact that I cornered him for his MMA debut and then was able to corner him for his UFC debut. That to me was the coolest part about it. Because I can remember him getting his first fight, like his MMA debut, like as an amateur. I just remember him getting his fight. It's a completely different reaction from then to now. Uh, but like something still kind of stayed the same in the sense of like how giddy he was, or like how like the first time he got a fight, he's like, oh my God, this is actually happening. Oh my God, this is actually, oh, like he started going through that phase of like, man, it's oh God, this is a real thing. And it was more like nervousness and kind of getting scared and all that stuff. But when he got the call for the UFC, it was the same, like it was saying, "Oh my God, no way, no way, no way!" And like I remember it just brought me back whenever he gave me that call saying that he got in. So, but being there for somebody else other than me was super surreal. It was great. Just because every time I've gone, especially from our group, like it's only been like pretty much me. I've kind of always kind of uh it's always just only been for me, and Cameron's only come to Vegas and corner me, and it felt good being on the other side, helping him be in his corner and get that win. So it was cool. And there was also like a sense of calm for me, and with him being in the UFC than like fighting on the regional scene. On the regional scene, like I had this thing where I just start like chewing mints or gum, just because how nervous I am. Like I used to have like a big like blob of gum on the side of my cheek just from chewing. So seeing Cameron to go to go fight in the regional scene was way more nerve wracking than being in the UFC, fighting the UFC. So it was a surreal moment for me, but man, it was definitely one of those like I think I might have shed a tear, but like nah, I was like nah, you're gonna be on camera. Don't be a bitch, dog.
Well, you had to feel good for him,
Mhm.
man. Like even if you didn't know the guy, to see him in the cage post fight and just how giddy he was, it was a really cool thing to see. Someone achieving their dream,
Mhm.
or at least achieving the first part of the dream that he, wants to accomplish here. Now, will he be in your corner come fight night?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'm gonna have a fight where he's not in my corner unless we fight on the same date. That's the probably the only time. And depending on where we're at on the cards, if I'm on the main card and if he's still like fairly like getting a couple fights, he's on the early part, then 100% I'll try to have him back in my corner. But if not, if we're too close, it's like, hey bro, we're here. We're here. So hopefully we get that opportunity to kind of be like, oh shit, like we're fighting on the same card. So I'm hoping we get that opportunity.
Yeah, one day, I'm sure. Can you tell us what your walkout song is going to be?
I man, I don't know. I don't even know myself yet either. Like I usually it's usually the theme of the camp. And by the time Miss Heidi sends me an email like, hey, what do you want to walk out to? I'm just like I usually know it by then. But man, I shoot, like it's been hard to pick which one I wanted. Like my last one was a very like uh was that Mexican OT kick no click, and it was just more like kind of like I had to kind of leave like any type of happiness or anything like kind of pushed away. Like I was listening to like a whole bunch of diss songs before I would walked out. So I was like in this weird, I was in this like mental like angry mental state. And I feel like that's where I'm leaning to now. So that expect something a little bit more darker, but like not like too dark where it's like super heavy metal. It's gonna be
Okay.
somewhere close to that or not. Like I don't know. It's still I'm still working on it.
All
I'm
right.
not
Well,
sure what the vibe is.
I'm excited to see what it is, man, because that's honestly One of my favorite parts of watching the UFC show is the walkout songs. I love seeing what songs people pick and just how they get into the mindset before they step into the cage. We've already talked about your opponent Daniel a little bit, striker versus striker. You gave your analysis, but do you think this fight is gonna hit the ground at all, Adrian, or is this gonna be a stand up fight the duration?
I believe it's going to be a stand-up fight for the duration. Honestly, it just depends. I've had so many people in my ear being like, "Bro, you have a black belt jiu-jitsu. Why don't you use it?" And I'm just like, a lot of the times, a sub never like a sub's cool, but like I hardly ever see submission of the night performance bonuses, So an extra 50K, like going for the knockout to me, it's like feels like it's like it's a shoe in. You can knock somebody out. Hey, cool. Here's a bonus, or here's that locker room bonus. You didn't get this one this time, but here you go. Here, but but pretty much, I think if I were to try to, I'd do it, but I don't. It's not really something I'm banking on. I've been working on it, especially since like I've had like back to back camps, like pretty much like Rafian Stotts had like a super long camp because they pushed his fight back like about a month and a half after he was supposed to fight. So I was there kind of being like his main training partner, wrestling with him, trying to do everything I can, to help him out. So I've tightened up a lot in my grappling and my wrestling aspect. So yeah, it would be cool to show just for everybody. So I just be like, give everybody the FU, like fuck you dudes. Like I know I can grapple, but I don't know. I don't think it's in the cards. I don't think I'm
Okay.
playing that card yet.
Fair enough. Is Daniel as dangerous as someone like Jonathan Martinez or Rob Font, or is he too early in his career? Maybe hasn't fought the highest level competition to be as dangerous as one of those guys.
Yeah, I feel like he's on his way to being that dangerous, but also at the same time, I kind of notice a couple things in his fights where he's like he's undefeated and he carries himself like a undefeated fighter, like where he has like, oh, like if you were to jab him, he's like, oh, you jab me, like let me try to hit you back even harder. Like he wants to come back harder. So he has that type of undefeated mindset. And I felt like that walking into my fight with Rob Font. So, I was like I wasn't undefeated at that time, but I was feeling I was drinking my own Kool-Aid. So pretty much like as soon as I started hitting him, I kind of forgot the whole game plan. And I was like, nah, like I'm better than this guy. And I tried to hit him. I rocked him. And then next, I kind of caught myself kind of going in a downward spiral. I was like, oh, so I'm planning on, trying to stay tight and technical against this guy because he can crack and he does have good striking. And he like that. I think that factor as well, too, where he's undefeated. He has that little little pep in his step where he wants to be show people why he's still like he's undefeated. Uh, I think he has that little cockiness to it. I'm not even saying it in a bad thing. It's just one of those things where he feels invincible. So, I know if I touch him, he's gonna want to really try to hit me back and try to get me back 2 times as hard. So I gotta find holes, poke at him, and then make sure I set my own big shots up.
I know what your prediction is, but what round do you get him out of there?
I believe I get him out in the second round. First round, I feel is going to be tit for tat, and then once we get going, I feel like I'm going to find it. I'm going to find the chin.
Ooh, Greg, can't wait for this one, man. It's going to be a fun one.
Oh, I know, man. I know. And I love the honesty around what you said about Rob Font. Like
Mhm.
the very honest assessment. And truth be told, I work for Calvin Cater's organization for his fight, his combat
Mhm.
zone. So I do commentary, and I've worked with Rob. I love Rob Font. He's a really good guy. Calvin too they're
Mhm.
great, really down to earth people. You mentioned Martinez as well. Of the Martinez fight and the Font fight, or any fight,
Mhm.
anyone you want to run back? You want to run back that one with Rob?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, man. I have yet to have like a rematch except for like like an amateur fight. And it was like my first two fights. Like my first two fights, I fought back to back the same guy. And uh and then after that, I've never received a rematch, even though there was a couple times where it was almost set to happen. But it yeah, I would like I would lean more towards the Rob Font than Jonathan Martinez. I've trained with the Martinez a little bit since after we fought. And I genuinely like the guy, so it's also kind of hard to fight a guy that you like, uh, going in, So no hard feelings, but yeah, if those names were to pop up again, it'd be one of those things. But I would definitely like to fight Rob way more than I would fight Jonathan, because again, I like Jonathan a lot. He's a pretty cool guy, train with him a little bit too. So hopefully, we might train a little bit more together here in the future, but it just depends.
I think that's a great fight too. You
Mm-hmm.
against Rob Font, the rematch would be ridiculous. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
stand and bang,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, it's a
you
striker's
love to
delight.
throw. Yeah, striker's delight. Love it. So just one last question. What are you hoping is next for you? I know you're trying to, you want the best fighters, the best
Mhm.
fights, move up the ladder. What else? Anything else on top of that?
Honestly, I just want to go in there, snipe this guy out, before I start thinking about anything else. Like if I start this is the problem that I've had, like uh kind of going back to that Rob fight, is that like I kept looking at a lot of, like when people would ask me, I was like, yeah, you Rob Font, what's next? And it turned into like me starting to be like, yeah, what is next? Oh man, like I start overthinking. I'll be like, oh man, like I go out there and I knock Rob out. Oh man, like that Sean O'Malley fight right there is like big numbers right there. And then I fight O'Malley. Oh my gosh, like that might put me in the spot to fight for the belt. And especially even at that time, if everything had kind of went the way it's like had planned, fight Rob. If I were to knock him out, then that would have set up a nice fight to fight Sean O'Malley, and and then I kind of got too far ahead of myself thinking about other stuff instead of thinking about the person in front of me, because I had my mind focused 100% on Rob until the other stuff started creeping in and started like kind of being like, yeah, you know what? And I started overlooking him, and I can't do that this time around. So I am 100% looking straight down at Daniel Marcos, not looking past him. I got to go out there, and to look past him, I had to punch through him. So that's exactly what I'm going to do.
So the answer is, what's next? What are you looking for? Daniel Marcos. That's what's
Yes,
next.
yes, yes, sir.
Really
Daniel
good.
Marcos.
Good.
Well,
Like,
regardless, Adrian, one thing that is crystal clear to, I'm sure, both of us, but definitely me, the future is bright for you. The future is very bright. 2025 is going to be another great year. You're going to be
Mhm.
around for a long time. You're going to be someone that's right at the top of this bantamweight division, contending for a title one day. So can't wait for UFC Tampa, my friend. Let's say we transition to UFC 309 and get some picks. Does that sound good, guys?
Oh yeah.
All right. John Jones. You probably heard of him. Taking on Stipe Miocic, main event, heavyweight title. John Jones is a massive favorite. Minus 650 is what I'm seeing right now. Stipe Miocic plus 475. This guy is the greatest heavyweight
Damn.
of all time. He's coming back. I know it's been a 3-year layoff, but are those odds nuts or do you think they're accurate? What do you think we're going to see in this fight, Adrian?
Man, I feel it's a little bit high, but also with the circumstances of everything, because I'm kind of basing it off of Stipe of old, uh, like before he's kind of took this long hiatus. Uh, it's a solid fight if there wasn't no big break, but there is a big break, so I feel like those odds are pretty spot on. Because again, I haven't seen no training footage. Like I've kind of been primarily focused on everything else but but main events as of late. But yeah, John Jones is just really good, and especially with how fast and he got Cyril Gane out of there, and then just what he's been able to do beforehand. I kind of want to see how he looks stepping in, and I wonder if all this stuff, like, because all this week has been all I've seen is everybody saying how big of a duck John Jones is, and I wonder if that is gonna bother him throughout the week. Because again, like I think I had saw that one where he was about to do an interview, and he was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to do this interview. I think I'm good. I'm calling it. I just feel like they're gonna talk a lot about Tom Aspinall. I feel like it's been a lot of like Tom Aspinall like questions or Tom Aspinall hate on this end. He's just kind of and Tom is just kind of just standing there, just like, I just want to fight, dude. Like, and it's not really primarily focused on Stipe. So I don't know. It might be. I don't know if he's 100% focused on this. So I don't know if I had $100 to play with, I'd throw it. I'd throw it on Stipe just to be like, all right, let's see, let's try this, let's try this out. If you lose 100, like, well, if you had 100 to play with, and you're not gonna miss that money. If he loses, hey, but if you win, you're like, it's a pretty good day.
Yeah.
So I would probably put it, but in my head, I I'm going John Jones, but if again, if I'm betting down, tell me to put money down, I would probably put money on Stipe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely where the money's at, right? You're going to win
Mm-hmm.
money betting on Stipe. You're not going to win much on Jones unless you parlay it with a few other fights or you do something crazy there. But it's just really interesting to me, how this fight is the narrative going into it because John Jones, everyone believes is the greatest fighter pound for pound of all time. I can't really argue it, but I do feel like Stipe is being disrespected a little bit. Like these odds
Mm-hmm.
should be closer. So to me, that's the biggest surprise for me is the just the gap in the odds here. Greg, are you agreeing with that? Like, what do you see when you look at this fight?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, no argument that John Jones is the GOAT. He's just done it. He's done what you need to do to be the best. You don't lose. And when you do, they bring back the rule to they change
Yeah.
the rule. So I mean, John Jones is the greatest, but I don't like him personally.
Mhm.
Like I know a little bit of his history back in New York and everything. I don't like him, and I think like every fighter has a breaking point, and John Jones has really pushed it, and a lot of his mindset and mentality, that's what gets him through a lot of stuff. But I do think Stipe has been overlooked, and I will be putting at least $100. I'm going to put him in a parlay with a couple of other dogs that I really think have a chance. So yeah, I'm going with Stipe, and to just end the legacy right here, man. Like, how long can you keep going? So long can you keep doing it, man? I mean, it's wonderful, but how long? Man, sometimes the foundation just cracks
Yeah.
sometimes, and I
Mhm.
think the night.
To be fair too, like, and I think both you guys would agree with me somewhat here. Like, you could easily say that John lost to Alexander Gustafsson,
Yeah.
Reyes. The Tiago fight was close. Like, he's been in some razor thin fights in the past. Like, he could have like a legit loss. I mean, the Hamill loss. That I get it, it's a loss, but he didn't really lose the fight. But
Mhm.
those some of those other fights he could have lost. And Stipe's put on, from what I hear, 20 pounds going into this fight from what he used to fight at heavyweight. And he was a decorated collegiate wrestler. So he's not going to be able to just dart in and take him down like he did Cyril Gahn. Like that the fight's going to take place on the feet, and Stipe's 6'4". So I just wonder how John's going to be able to how he's going to react to that. And, granted, I think overall John's a better fighter. I would lean towards John to win the fight, but I'm just very surprised at the odds, and I just it just baffles me that they're as far apart as they are for the greatest fighter of all time
Mhm.
versus the greatest heavyweight of all time. I just expected them to be closer. So Adrian, pick for you. You're leaning John, but you would bet money on Stipe if you could.
Oh yeah, that's the way I'd phrase it. Like I think it's gonna be John Jones taking the win, but again, if you give me $100, I'm gonna put that on. I'm gonna put that on Stipe just because of the fact I know I could make some big money coming off of that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Wallet would tell me, hey, if you got extra savings on there, just go ahead and throw it on Stipe. But if you ain't betting anything, you got no skin in the game, you think John's gonna win.
Okay. Greg.
I would, yeah. The one thing I'm not going to do is put down $625 to make $100 on John Jones winning. That's not a good. That's what it is. He's negative 625. So I ain't putting up, you know, that much money to win back a little bit. So yeah, I think Stipe is a better bet.
All right. I will say this too, guys. I don't know if you saw John Jones. He was at the Knicks game the other night. He came down on the court and he was shooting. Did you see that?
No,
Oh
No.
no, no.
Whoo! It was like Conor McGregor throwing out the first pitch. It was not pretty. It was not
Oh
pretty to watch.
gosh.
So he needs to stay off the basketball court, stay in the octagon. I'll just leave it at that. We'll move to the co-main event. Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, the rematch. Man, Chandler almost had Oliveira finished a couple of times the first time they fought. Oliveira obviously got the win. He's a favorite here, minus 240. Chandler plus 205. Adrian, do you think these guys are going to end up 1-1, or do you think Oliveira beats him again?
Man, the question for me always is like, man, he for Chandler is that he waited so long for Connor, like, and he's been training specifically for Connor, that like how much of his game did he change to fight, to train to fight Connor, and then kind of end up having to fight Charles? Like what did you change, like stylistically? How much did you have to change? And I kind of want to see how that is implemented whenever he starts having to again zone in and hone in on Charles Oliveira. And Charles Oliveira, he's gotten better. He's gotten really, really good off during this off time. Armin had a even though he won, there was a lot of spots where he was needing to stay in work. He was in danger. He was never safe in any of his fights. And I feel like I think I had heard something in an interview where Michael Chandler was like, there's always that, like, you can never lose that quit factor. But I'm like, bro, you kind of banked on that your first fight with him. You can't bank on that again. So I'm probably going to go with Charles Oliveira. I've doubted him one too many times, so it's one of those things where I'm just going to go back to Charlie Olives.
Hey, safe bet. I'm actually kind of feeling the same way as Adrian. Greg, what are you thinking?
3-0. I'm going Charlie O to go 2-0 against Chandler. Yeah, all the way, man. I think Charlie O's the man.
Okay.
He's gonna take it.
Chandler looks ripped heading into this fight. I don't
Mhm.
know if you guys have seen
Yeah.
him, but he looks as good as he's ever looked physically. I wonder if that will play a factor, and he definitely has a lot of power. So he cut Charles before. Maybe he can do it again. But that'll be an interesting fight to keep an eye on in the co-main. Bo Nickel, Paul Craig. Do we need to spend a lot of time on this one? Bo Nickel's a huge favorite, minus 1,200. Paul Craig plus 750. Paul Craig's a veteran, Adrian, but again,
Mhm.
disrespected a little bit here as far as the odds go. Do you give Paul Craig a chance, or is this Bo Nickel all day?
Man, it honestly, to me, the way I'm looking at it is, man, it's more along the lines of like, we know that Bo has the way better wrestling. Is Paul Craig going to be able to crank out a submission, or like, is his grappling is nothing to play with as well, but it's more like in the submission aspect. Uh, but man, I don't know. I feel Bo is good. But again, we still haven't kind of seen him tested to the brim, and I'm kind of hoping like Paul Craig kind of pulls it out of him a little bit, so he kind of gets to show how much he's tested, because he's a veteran and he's really good. And I do feel like the odds kind of are disrespecting him a little bit, but I still have Bo winning. I wouldn't be like putting Bo at a minus 1,000 or anything like that. It'd probably be closer to like maybe it's a lot closer to me than what probably the odds have it. What were the odds numbers again?
Minus 1,200 is what I'm seeing right now. Paul
Yeah,
Craig plus 750.
yeah, that's too far for me. That's too far for me. It again, if I was like, if you're telling me again, same thing with that Stipe with the Stipe and John Jones fight, if I had $100, I'm putting money on Paul Craig, just because, again, like, I think he has the ability to do it. Will he do it? I don't know. I don't like. I'm still leaning towards Bo Nickel, but I'm gonna give it. I would put money on Paul Craig.
Greg?
I feel the same way, man. I mean, yeah, the odds are way too, they're too drastic. Bo Nickel puts Paul Craig on his back, and then Paul Craig, out of nowhere, throws him in a triangle, which he does so many times. Paul Craig loves working off his back. Triangle submission for the plus 750. Put him in a parlay. You don't need $100, Adrian. You go $5 with Paul Craig, Stipe, and I'll give you another one later on. And then I'll tell you how much that's going to pay. $5. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm
Going.
doing. I love that. You get these big underdogs to have these upsets. I love the underdogs. I love dogs, man. I'm a dog lover.
Yeah, well, me too. It's going to be interesting. I mean, again, Bo Nickel, he's an amazing wrestler. We've seen what he's done,
Yes.
and I think his future, much like you, Adrian, is very, very bright. But this is a veteran guy that, like you
Mhm.
said, Greg, is very dangerous. So intriguing middleweight bout there. Karine Silva, Vivian Araujo. Greg, any thoughts on this one? Silva minus 265 is your favorite. Vivian plus 225 as the dog.
Yeah, I'm a big Karine Silva fan, and I think she just gets it done. I'm not going with the dog on this one. I go with Karine Silva. She's really, really impressive. I don't even know when the last time she lost was. It was a while back.
Yeah.
So she's on a really good trajectory, and yeah, I got her for the win pretty handily.
A lot of people I've seen have her as one of their more confident picks on this card. Adrian, do you have any thoughts on this fight?
Uh, not too many big thoughts. It's more along the lines like what everybody else is thinking,
Mhm. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, Karine Silva,
Yeah.
she's no joke. I'm with you. I think she gets this one. I think she does it impressively. Another guy that is known for his knockouts, that is very impressive, young in his UFC career, Mauricio Ruffy minus 800 as a favorite over James Lontop plus 550 as an underdog. For me, guys, I don't see any way that Ruffy doesn't finish with a TKO win. I think it's plus 150 to pick him, or plus 100 to pick him to win TKO KO. Greg, are you feeling the same way about that, or do you think there's a chance Lon Top's going to pull an upset here?
Yeah, I do. I feel the same way. I'm looking right now. Ruffy by TKO is now minus 150. That's
Oh,
what I have on
Mm.
DraftKings. So yeah, it's even bet. Yeah. Um, I think it's a foregone conclusion.
yeah,
The
guy's a
game
beast.
by knockout's going to be pretty much the way.
Okay, Adrian, agreed.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of like being you're getting served a platter of Mauricio Ruffy. Yeah, there's this like he's gonna be eating all day.
Yeah, no, no doubt. And that fight kicks off the main card. A guy that we talked about earlier, Adrian, Jonathan Martinez fights Marcus McGee in the
Hmm.
featured bout on the prelims. And Marcus is the favorite, minus 130. Jonathan
Hmm.
Martinez plus 110. Do you think Martinez gets this win? Or, I mean, Marcus McGee's looked really good, and this is his toughest fight to date. But what do you see in this fight?
Man, it's a really tough fight for the both of them. Just because on Marcus's side, he's fighting the best striker he's had. Yeah, I know he had Bolanos in front of him, but I don't count it because of the fact that like it's kind of like he had a great run in Bellator. No shade towards him at all. He had a great run in Bellator, but his UFC kind of stint, like it's almost like the Gokhan Saki effect, like it's not the same. There's differences, there's levels here. He might have been a great Muay Thai or kickboxer and in that martial art, but once you have to mix everything together, it kind of gets a little bit like uh you kind of expose it a little bit in certain senses. So Marcus, man, he hits hard. He's a power puncher. He's slick. He knows how to set traps. Martinez, he's very, very good. He does create angles, small, but very can like lead to very devastating strikes. Like whenever I was watching back my fight and his fight, he was doing little things, that I know that they working in camp that opened my eyes to a lot of things that I started switching a lot of my game just because of that fight itself. And you know, and it's also a tough fight for Jonathan because he's also fighting another power puncher who kind of switches, who doesn't mind switching stances. And I think that'll make it a little bit more difficult for John to start getting a little bit of his kicks off. But if he can get his everything working up the middle, I feel he can be he can he can do a lot better, and I think he can edge the win out. I don't think it's I don't think there's a stoppage in this fight. I think it goes all three. I think Jonathan can get the win. It's a very close fight for me. I kind of want to see how Jonathan does since he's not a part of X Factory X anymore. I kind of want to see where everything goes for him. I kind of want to see what he does and what he does differently.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the thing that I'm looking at, and I'm just like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It kind of throws a wrench in there for me because if he was still, had a head coach and everything was still going, how, from what I understand, their camp went whenever they were going up against me. Like I feel like that guy is a top five guy, but I it's kind of like worrisome now for me looking outside looking in. I'm just like, I don't know. It's kind of tough for me. Like I gotta look. I'm like he's a solid guy. So I was like, man, I want to see him do good. So they're both really fucking cool guys. I
Yeah,
talk to
yeah,
both of them. It's
for
hard for
sure.
me to be like, I like this guy. I like this guy. I'd have talked to Jonathan a lot more, but he's a really cool guy, good friend. So it's like I would want to see him win. And again, I like Marcus too. Every time I see him, it's always up. So it's weird.
Yeah, they're both good dudes. I've had the pleasure of interviewing both of them, and I'm just staying the heck away from this fight from a betting
Yeah.
perspective. But Greg, what do you think? Where are you leaning?
I like what you're saying, Adrian. Marcus McGee is tough. Jonathan's probably going to weather a bunch of the storm because he's a really tough dude.
Mhm.
So I got Marcus McGee by decision. Racking it up on points from the hands, but I don't see Jonathan Martinez wilting. You know,
Mhm.
and I do not like to bet on fighters that switch gyms the fight after they switch. So
Yeah.
I'm siding with McGee.
Okay. Yeah, it's going
Yeah.
to be interesting. I have this one circled. I can't wait to actually just see what happens in the cage. Two more fights that I just want to focus on, guys, maybe before we get out of here today. Chris Weidman, Eric Anders. Right now, it's
Mhm.
essentially a pick 'em. Adrian, let me start with you here. I mean, they're both older guys. Obviously, Weidman, the former champion. We know what happened with that nasty injury that he had. Eric Anders never really has made it to the top of the division, but he's not facing the best Chris Weidman, to date. So I don't know. Like I'm kind of iffy on this one. Do you have a? Are you leaning one way?
Man, I am kind of leaning towards Eric Anders, just slightly, man. I'm not 100% sold. Uh, because man, I don't know, man. It's just it's again, it's this is another one of those tough ones for me. Chris looked as good as he did, especially in his last fight, you know, because again, he had to deal with a whole bunch of coming back, then fighting Brad Tavares, which I thought was a terrible matchup to come back to, uh, just because of the takedown defense that Brad Tavares has, and he has Chris striking. It was a winnable fight for Chris, but I don't think at the time, like where he was at the moment, I don't think that was a winnable fight. I don't think it was a good matchup for him. Then you got another guy he was able to go in there and beat. Eric Anders. He's game, he's tough, and he's explosive. He punches hard, and he can also wrestle. It's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a fun one to watch, but I kind of want to see who is in the better shape, and I would probably want to put that on Eric. I would probably put that on Eric just a little bit. It's still a tough one. It's still a tough one for me to pick.
It's a tough fight to gauge, really.
Hmm.
Greg, where are you leaning?
Yeah, I think it comes down to whether or not Chris Weidman is coming up or going down, right? Like, is he fading out of the sport, or is he really making a big resurgence after the Bruno Silva win? I'm gonna go the other way and go with Eric Anders also, and because I think he's on more of a rise than a decline. So I think that has something to do with it, and I'm gonna go with him for sure. But a great fight, another great fight.
Anders, just to be clear too, he hasn't been very active. So it's not like he's been a guy that's been fighting 3 times a year. He hasn't. I
Hmm.
think he hasn't fought much in the last couple of years, actually. So it's going to be interesting to see. If Weidman can go in and beat Bruno Silva, I think he can beat Eric Anders. But
Hmm.
I don't know that we'll see what happens come fight night. One more, guys: Jim Miller, Damon Jackson. I mean, who doesn't like to watch a Jim Miller fight? The guy always brings it. Plus
Hmm.
150 as a dog. Damon Jackson minus 175 as the favorite. Adrian, you going with the leech, or do you think old man Jim Miller gets another win?
Oh man, the Leech, a Texas guy, and new hair. Who's this? I'd probably more likely gonna go with the Leech just because again, like I get very biased in a lot of these conversations. Man, Damon Jackson, man, he's good, he's solid, and I feel like he's been there for a very long time, but also you got a guy across from him that's been there for that like such a long fucking time. So it's like
Like
I
since
don't
the
know.
beginning.
Yeah, since the beginning, man. That's a hard. This is also a hard one for me to pick and hard one for me to gauge. If I'm going pure resume, of course, it's always Jim Miller all day, every day. Uh, but again, I'm very biased in Texas, just in general. So it's hard for me to ever be like, oh no, like no, like it's not. It's I can't dismiss a lot of these guys. Like no, if you're from Texas, I am very biased towards my picks. Like you put a Texas guy and somebody else in front of me, even though I know the other guy is gonna win, I will still side with the Texas guy. That's how biased I am when it comes to Texas fighters.
Hey, you can't be mad at that. I get it. You cheer for the guys that are around you. I'd be doing the same thing. Greg, what are you thinking here in this one? Are you going with Jim Miller or Damon Jackson?
Well, look, man, December 14th, I'm going to be in New Jersey at the Crystal Springs Resort at a wedding in Jim Miller's home state of New Jersey. I'm from Long Island, so I hear
Yeah,
your
hey,
loyalty, and I'm going with Jim Miller. And also because I'm old, man, because look, I've been
hey,
around. I watched Jim Miller fight when I was a kid, like that's how long he's been around.
Yeah,
So,
hey,
it's
man, if Jim Miller was fighting, it was fighting Damon Jackson, and Damon Jackson was from Louisiana, I'd be going Jim Miller.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I
But
can't let,
I
I can't,
feel that, man. Like
I
being
can't let
the home.
myself get away. Like, man, I have my heart and my soul's here in Texas. So anytime a Texas guy fights, I'm like, nah, man, I got to go Texas.
I love
yeah.
the loyalty, man. But I'm loyal to New York, the New York crew. New York, New Jersey. The fight crew is kind of the same. So yeah,
Yeah,
Greg,
respect.
before we get out of here, man, give me the Kaze Kingpin parlay of the week. What do you got?
yeah. Listen, what I got, man. Jim Miller, right? So it started out with Miller at plus 150. Go to Craig plus 750, and end it with Stipe at 455. $5 gonna get you $590 back.
Oh
Ooh,
damn.
So
Oh damn.
possible. I mean, not probable, but it's possible. And it's only a $5 investment. You get to watch some fun fights. You might lose, but you're only losing $5. But if they pull off some upsets, you're up $6.
Hey
yeah.
man, I'm here with it. I am the degenerate that would be like, you know what? You say five. Let me throw this 100 I just got.
Yeah, why not make it 5 grand, right?
Yeah.
But not you, Adrian, because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't bet
No,
Oh,
on
yeah.
UFC fights, but you
Oh,
can kind of advise your
hypothetically,
friends.
this is hypothetical, all right?
of
Right.
course.
The
Of course.
hypothetical somebody give me $100 to bet. Yeah, this is
Exactly. Awesome, man. Hey, where are you watching the fights this weekend? You already told us, Greg, where you're going to be. Where are you watching the fights, Adrian?
man, I don't know. It just depends if I'm in the mood to go over to a friend's house or if I just want to stay back in and watch the fights here. Because one thing I do hate is that I'm having to stay strict with a lot of what I'm eating. So
Yeah.
if I go over to somebody's house and they have barbecue on the thing, I'm about to be pissed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just depends right now. It more likely will be at home.
It's probably the safe play, right? That way you don't
Yeah.
get tempted. You got a fight
Yeah.
around the corner.
Right around the corner, a month away. We're a
That's right.
month out.
December 14th, UFC Tampa. Can't wait to see you back in there, Adrian. Thank you for doing this, man. Come back and see us sometime. Join the show again.
Oh hell yeah, I'm always down.
Awesome, man. Always great to talk to you. For Adrian, Greg, I'm Ryan. We will see you guys next week.